Hello peeps, I'm a long-time lurker, blah blah blah, first time posting, you know the story. So this happened a few months ago. I had just gotten Red Dead Redemption. Awesome game. And while I was playing online, I met this awesome guy named Rick. He's in like his 50s, and is a retired firefighter. We played together for a while, helping me level up so that people wouldn't target a low-level player who is also a girl. After a while, he introduces me to this guy named Black Wolf Angel, or something like that. Black seemed cool at first. We would hang out on RDR, shooting lots of bandits and doing gang hangouts. After a while, we became somewhat good friends. He then started to lightly flirt with me every once in a while. I let it slide, being the kind of person I am. I made it my goal to not get a so-called Xbox boyfriend, so I tended to avoid flirting on there. We would normally hang on parties with Rick, but one time he invited me to a party, and I'm like, oh, okay, he and Rick want to play. But I was dead wrong. He started to flirt super heavily with me. I acted like I had to go, so I left. For weeks, he would spam me with party invites and messages saying,
"Hey, sexy."
And stuff like,
"I'm so horny."
It finally got to the point where I was so sick of him. So when he invited me the last time, I answered. Big mistake. He started with the usual flirting, and I just said, "Look, Black, I'm not interested in any kind of relationship right now, so please lay off." But then he broke the silence by sending me a message saying,
"I'm thinking of suicide. Because of you."
I flipped my shit and started to curse him out and telling him to never contact me again. I told Rick all about it, and he told me he stopped talking to him a few days before for the same reason. For a while, everything was cool, but then I started to get phone calls and text messages saying the same shit he used to say. I answered one said call and told him to fuck off or I'm getting the police. Thankfully, he stopped after that. I never gave him my number. Also turns out, he stalked my friend and questioned her for my number. He threatened to hack her account. So, Black, from Xbox Live, let's never meet again. You creep.
This story took place about 2 years ago. I was 12 or 13 at the time. I'm 14 now. Alright, so it was pretty late, maybe 4 o'clock or something. I know it was getting bright outside. I was probably watching Netflix, YouTube, or just playing Xbox. I started hearing loud bangs below my room. I remember thinking it was my older brother who didn't live with us at the time because my mom kicked him out. I eventually went to the washroom, which is just down the hall, right beside the stairs in my mom's room. While I was sitting in the washroom doing my business, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. I still thought it was my brother. I then heard my mom's door open and the footsteps creeped into my mom's room. Moments later, I heard my mom scream something like, "Get the fuck out of here!" I heard him rush down the stairs. I was already finished, but I stayed in the washroom to hear what was going on. My mom called my name and I quickly opened the door to see her with a terrified look on her face. She quickly explained that she woke up to someone in her bed. Thinking it was my sister, she went to hold her hand, but it felt rough and nothing like my sister's hand. She went to turn on her lamp and saw a completely naked teen. My mom said it looked like one of my brother's friends that would come over when my brother had lived with us. That was when she screamed and called for me. I tried to calm her down and just tell her that she was just seeing things, even though I had heard him. We went downstairs and I saw that the front door was wide open. For some reason we thought he was still in the house, so I went downstairs with my phone. I recorded the basement with the flashlight and me and my mom looked at the video, but we saw nothing. We went into the sunroom, which is where the back door is. I saw my brother's friend wearing a towel trying to get out of the gate near the garage. My mom called the police and they got there pretty quickly. He was gone by then, but the officers went to look for him. When it was over, my mom insisted that I went to bed even though I wanted to stay up in case he came back. After that encounter, my stepdad got us new locks and kept wooden planks in the doors until we moved out. My mom told my brother what happened, and he said he wanted to kill the kid. The kid got away with it because he was high when it happened. We saw him once after that. He was walking with my brother.
I'm a female that regularly plays BO2 with some friends of mine. One night we met this other kid. We'll call him Sam. Sam was 21. At the time I was 17. Sam seemed like a really nice person, so we invited him to our party, our Xbox Live party, and we played for hours. At the end he asked if I wanted to exchange kicks. I have a kick for this reason, so I agreed and gave him mine. The next night, it ended up only being me, Sam, and one other person in the party. Sam invited me into a private chat, and he began talking about how his girlfriend just broke up with him, blah blah blah. Long story short, I felt bad for this guy. We continued to talk over kick, and we became close in about a week. Now, at this point, Sam told me he had feelings for me. I was in a vulnerable spot at the time, and appreciated the attention I got from Sam. However, I did make it clear I didn't date people I didn't even know. Fast forward a few weeks, and this kid had gone postal. He constantly messaged me on Kik. At this point, he had my number, so he constantly called or texted me when I didn't answer. He just became very creepy. He knew I had guy friends that I regularly hung out with. Just friends, keep in mind. And that I occasionally went to parties. Well, he didn't like that because I was putting myself in danger and didn't know the damage I was causing. I was like, dude, I have friends I hang out with. Like, we hang out, that's it. So being a crazy person, he told me I was his girlfriend, and all this other stuff. And I decided I needed to end the friendship. He said bye, and that was that. Or so I thought. A few hours later, he messaged me, saying he was going to kill himself, and all of this stuff. So naturally, I gave him the suicide hotline, and told him I'd talk with him while he called if he needed me to. Bad move on my part. He took this as us being friends again. When he had calmed down, I mentioned I wasn't interested in being friends. He started again. So, I felt trapped, to say the least. He would constantly talk about being in gang fights, and how he went to the hospital like every day. After a while, I stopped listening to his stories, because that's all they were, stories. It got to the point where every day, he was in some horrible, awful gang fight that left people dead and in the hospital. Yet no news stories ever mentioned anything about these huge fights. At one point he told me this girl he hooked up with was pregnant, but then she kicked him out of her life, and then they got back together and got engaged, but then she lost the baby, and then she was 6 months pregnant. Really unbelievable stories if you ask me. For a while it would be the same thing. I say goodbye. He threatened suicide. Repeat. Only one night, the usual cycle was different. I told him that I was deleting my kick and changing my number because it had become too much for me to handle. He then decides to say something along the lines of,
I'm friends with gang members. If need be, I'll make sure you're followed. To make sure you stay safe, I can easily track your phone number.
At this point, I'm livid because this guy, I don't know, is threatening to have me followed over nothing. He had apologized saying he was just joking. But, I don't take things like that lightly. So I blocked him on Kick. And he continued to text and call me until I finally changed my number. Dude was a total creep. I had found out through mutual Xbox friends that his ex-girlfriend was like 14 or 15, and the reason they broke up is because her parents found out. Thankfully, I never heard from him again. But while all of it was going on, it was really scary. I didn't feel like I could tell anyone, because I did give my kick to some stranger on the interwebs. So, it kind of was my fault. Regardless though, since then, I've been much more careful who I give my information out to. And to this day, I'm still paranoid that someone is following me.
My story is kind of long, so bear with me. When I turned 13 years old, my dad bought me an Xbox 360, along with Xbox Live. I was stoked. I got really into Halo and even joined a clan. I was the only girl in the clan, which, I thought was pretty cool. There was like 23 of us. Most of them were my age, and the oldest was 20, Greg. He sent me a friend request, and I, of course, accepted because he was the best out of all of us. I wanted to pick his brain and rank up with him. So we start talking and playing with each other every day after school. He eventually asked me for my number after a few weeks, and I end up giving it to him. We were texting like no other, and talking all night. I even got it taken away a few times for getting caught being up so late on the phone on school nights. Everyone in my clan lived in our area, so I was glad he told me he only lived a few minutes from me. We arranged to meet and started dating. 1 month goes by and I think Greg is just the greatest person in the world. He was nerdy, funny, and I loved him. Or I thought I did. Things started getting weird after only 1 month of us being together. He told me I was not allowed to have any male friends. He said I had to leave the clan, delete all the male friends I had on MySpace. I thought this was reasonable at the time. When I would question these requests, he would simply tell me, if you loved me, you'd only need me. And so I did as he asked. Not long after I did all that, he asked if I had any male teachers at school. I told him yes, of course, most of them are. He then got very angry and told me that if I loved him, I'd transfer out. I just rolled my eyes and said I would, but then texted him from school the next day and told him they wouldn't let me. I lied. I wasn't going to go through all that trouble. It was pointless. So, when I got home, he called me and told me that if I can't transfer out, that I am not allowed to make eye contact with them or any other guy in school. And if I did, he would find out because he has younger cousins that go to my school. I did as he said. I finally told my mom about Greg and told her how old he was, and she was not happy. She said, "We cannot tell your father. He will kill him and you. We will just say he's 16. That means he's a sophomore, all right?" I agreed, as my father is a hothead and very protective of my sister and I. Greg meets my father, and everything seems fine. My dad didn't hate him, but didn't like him. After they met, I was allowed to go on real dates like the movies and out to eat with Greg. Our first date, the movies. We arrived about 20 minutes late to our show, and when we walked into our theater, the lights were already dim and the sound was blaring. He stopped me from walking and pulled me into the dark hallway. He kissed me and then started putting his tongue in my mouth. I had no idea what he was doing. I was beginning to feel kind of violated because I really wasn't doing anything back, and he kept going. But I didn't want to stop Greg. I didn't want him to think I'm a terrible girlfriend or a baby for not making out already, so I just went with it. I felt something on my hip, and when I realized what it was, I kind of yelped. He starts laughing, turns me around while pushing my face against the wall. Still laughing, he has his knee on my back and is pulling my pants down with one hand. By this time, I was crying, and it was at the point of crying where I couldn't breathe or utter a word. My pants are at my mid-thigh, and I can feel him against me. His pants also down. Then nothing. I don't feel him. I'm not being pushed. I turn around and this older gentleman is beating the shit out of him. Greg somehow gets out of the guy's reach and runs away. The older gentleman asks if I'm okay and tells me to report Greg. I said okay, but sneak away on the way to reporting. I didn't want to report Greg. Then my dad would find out I was lying to him. I get home and have 47 text messages from Greg saying he's sorry, with pictures attached of his badly beaten face. I felt bad for him because in almost every text he sent me ended with, "You don't love me. Look what you let happen to me." I took him back. My mom ends up telling my dad that Greg is 20. My dad flips his shit and starts stalking his house and getting his plate number off his truck, and tells his cop friend to keep an eye on Greg, so I wasn't allowed to see him anymore. But I went to school with his cousin who gave me a phone to keep that Greg pays for. I fought and fought and fought for this guy, and I have no idea why. I blame my relationship with him for somewhat ruining my relationship with my father when I was a teenager. He also did weird things that were alarming at the time that I didn't realize till now. Like when we were together, he would put my hair in his mouth. I wasn't allowed to hold my cell phone when I was with him, he had to. His cousins told on me when I would look at a teacher or another guy, and that was followed by him following my bus home and making sure I went home. He would say I was on probation, and every time I would ask what he loved about me, he would go into great detail about how innocent I am, and how he gets to see me mature physically into a woman. Anyway, I ended up moving across the state and we tried to make it work. We dated until I turned 15, but I ended up cheating on him with who is now my husband. Greg stalked me on MySpace, then Facebook, making so many accounts. He would email me telling me I'm a slut, he fucking hates me, I'm going to rot in hell. He even told me that he had sex with a woman and that I needed to get checked for STDs because he had them. We never had sex. Then, in the next email, apologized and told me how much he misses me and loves me, and that he didn't know why he said that he had an STD. I ignored him. I wasn't scared. The harassing didn't stop until I was 18, right after I got married. I called him on a blocked number and told him if he didn't stop, I was going to tell everyone what he's done to me, and my daddy and husband are going to kill you and make it look like an accident if he didn't. I recently told my husband a few months ago about the incident, and he was so close to telling my father so they could make that long drive to teach him a lesson or throw him in jail, but I had to calm him down for a few days because I know they'd actually do it. But I gotta say, it feels good now that someone I feel safe with knows. So before I start my little powwow with you guys, I just want to tell you guys to please be careful of who you talk to or who you share your information with on Xbox Live or PSN. I've had a lot of friends that have had the same problems as these guys have had here. So guys, again, just please be careful. It's just a little warning for you guys. I want you guys all to be safe, play safe, and be okay. And with that being said, thank you so much, HeroToVillian, for joining me on my Collaboration Tuesday videos. If you guys haven't, please check out HeroToVillian. He's a really awesome narrator, and I definitely think you guys will like him. And with that being said, Heroes to Villain is probably going to be one of the last collaborations that I'm going to do for now. I'm going to take a break from them for a little bit just to focus on some more personal projects of mine on here. It's not to say that I'm not going to do one ever again. I will. Just for right now, I just want to break with it. And for some other depressing news, I guess. I know I've been posting a lot on Twitter about the dentist and my mouth and my tooth and all this other kind of bullshit. Alright. To tell everybody the full story of this, if anybody cares, I thought I had a wisdom tooth that needed to be pulled that day that I posted it on Twitter. Turns out, they thought it was my TMJ. I tend to grind my teeth a lot in my sleep, apparently. Apparently, I also talk in my sleep, too, so... But, you know, the pain kept hurting on one side. So I went back to the dentist the next day, and the dentist said that one wisdom tooth that's impacted is grinding up on my other tooth, which is hurting the molar. So, tomorrow, unfortunately, unbeknownst to my mother, she planned tomorrow to have my tooth removed, so that way the wisdom tooth can show, and that way they can pull that tooth out too, so I don't have any more pain. So, as with that being said, will there be a Friday video? If I heal enough, and if I get better enough, there will be a Friday video. I can promise you guys that. But if I don't heal in time, then I can try to do a video maybe on Sunday. We'll see how fast I heal, guys. It's definitely going to be a healing process. I hope it's not going to be as bad as the last time I got a wisdom tooth pulled. That shit hurt like hell. If anybody wants to hear the story to that, oh my god. Oh, Jesus Christ. I was, I never got a tooth pulled before in the dentist office, so I'm sitting there, they shoot me with the Novocaine, and I'm like, oh, that's not too bad. Then they yank on my tooth, and I'm like, okay, ow, ow, pain, ow, rip, oh! So, anyways, guys, I'm not so sure if there's going to be a Friday video. If I heal in time, yes, there will be. If it takes me a couple of days to really get back into it, then you guys might have to wait for maybe Monday or Tuesday for a video. So with all that being said, guys, wish me luck, and just remember, the best ideas always come out of nightmares. Even my nightmares of my tooth getting pulled.